What if everyone on Earth jumped at once? Well, if everyone tries to jump wherever they are, nothing would happen. But let's suppose you gather all the people in a single place. It would require the space equal to the city of Los Angeles, or a space of 55 square miles. Now, out of 8 billion people, 771 million are boomers and 134 million babies who can't jump. But let's suppose that somehow everyone gathers their willpower and tries to jump just for once. What would happen if everyone on Earth stood as close to each other as they could, jumped, and landed on the ground all at the same time? This is one of the most popular questions. It's been examined before, including by a science blog post and a straight dope article. Well, what would that even look like? Dot physics calculated that if all of us were to get together in one location and all jump 30 centimeters into the air at the exact same time, we would push Earth away from us a tiny amount. Earth would only move away from us about 1/100th of the width of a single hydrogen atom. And here's another thing, because we're all jumping and then going back to where we started, Earth is just going to move back to where it started. You would need 7 million times more people than even the current population on Earth right now to jump at once to recreate the earthquake that happened in Japan in 2011. Straight Dope article calculated that even if only the people who lived in China got together and jumped, their jump would be equal to 500 tons of TNT. Of course, 500 tons of TNT doesn't do much to an Earth that weighs 6 trillion 588 quintillion tons. But keep this in mind, even though you or even a large group of us can't do much to change Earth's location or rotation, we can affect it a little bit. Newton's third law guarantees this. If you weigh 150 pounds, the Earth is pulling you down with the force of 150 pounds. But you are also pulling up on the Earth with the force of 150 pounds. If you fall 3 meters, the Earth has pulled you down 3 meters. But you have also exerted an equal and opposite force on Earth. Of course, it's a lot bigger. So, if you fall 3 meters, you pull the Earth up a billionth of the width of a proton, which ain't bad. All of this covers the physics pretty well. However, this isn't the whole story. At the start of scenario, all of the Earth's population has been magically transported together into one place. This crowd takes up an area the size of LA. In fact, let's assume they, I mean we, are actually in LA. Exactly at noon, everyone jumps. As discussed elsewhere, the jump doesn't really affect the planet. The Earth outweighs us by a factor of over 10 trillion. On average, we humans can vertically jump maybe half a meter, and that's when we are not shoulder to shoulder in the middle of a crowd. Even if everyone did jump that high and the ground were rigid and responded instantly, the earth would still only be pushed down by less than an atom's width. Next, everyone falls back to the ground. Technically, this delivers a lot of energy into the earth, but it's spread out over a large enough area that it doesn't do much more than leave footprints in a lot of gardens. A slight pulse of pressure spreads through the North American continental crust and dissipates with the little effect beyond moving the needle of a few local seismometers. The sound of 16 billion feet hitting the ground does create a loud, drawn out roar which lasts many seconds. Eventually, the air grows quiet, seconds pass, everyone looks around. There are a lot of uncomfortable glances, someone coughs, a cell phone comes out of a pocket. Within seconds, the rest of world's 6.84 billion phones follow. All of them, even those compatible with the region's towers, are displaying some version of no signal because the cell networks have all collapsed under the unprecedented load. Outside LA, abandoned machinery starts to slow down and eventually stops. Airplanes fly through the skies on autopilot, food starts burning on abandoned stoves, and soccer balls reaches into now empty goals. And empty merry-go-rounds gradually stops. Back in LA, a lot of people begin to wonder, how do we get everyone home? Assuming they got things organized, including sending out scout missions to retrieve fuel, they could run at 500% capacity for 100 years without making any reduction in the crowd. The addition of all nearby airports doesn't change the equation much, nor does the region's light rail system. Crowds climb on board of container ships in the deep water ports nearby, but stocking sufficient food and water for a long sea voyage proves a challenge. LA's millions of cars are occupied altogether. Moments later, local highways become the sites of the largest traffic jams in the history of the planet. Most of the cars are blocked by the crowds, but a lucky few get out and begin wandering the abandoned road network. Some make it past New York or Boston before running out of fuel. Since the electricity is probably not on at this point, rather than finding a working gas pump, it's easier to just abandon the car and get in a new one. After all, who can stop you? All the cops are in LA. The edge of the crowd spreads outward the city. Any two people who meet are unlikely to have a language in common, and almost nobody knows the area. Even if people cooperate, everybody is hungry and thirsty. Grocery stores are immediately emptied and woefully insufficient. Fresh water is hard to come by, and there's no efficient system for distributing it. Sanitation is a disaster, and healthcare infrastructure is non existent. Within weeks, LA is a graveyard of billions, including most of the people who ask this question, and probably you and me too. The survivors spread out across the face of the world and struggle to build a new civilization atop the ruins of the old. Our species continues on, but our population has been greatly reduced, and most importantly, the Earth's rotation and orbit are completely unaffected. It spins along exactly as it did before our species wide jump.